Let's start with another source of Islamic law, which is Ijma, but it's considered and it's included in the secondary source of law. So, Ijma and Qiyas both are known as the secondary sources of law. Usually, you get a mixed up question like relation of Ijma with Quran or Hadith. Sometimes you also get a question of as a whole based on Ijma. So whenever the question is completely based on Ijma, so there are some rules and regulations that needs to be followed while making a level 4 answer. Okay? So now let's see what Ijma is, how the companions, how the Prophet encouraged the use of Ijma. So let's see step by step how we are going to move for a well developed answer. So first of all, the meaning of Ijma should be shared. So Ijma literally means to be unified or agreed. In terms of Islamic law, it means unanimity of all the scholars in Islam of one era on a single Islamic ruling after passing away of the Holy Prophet. So you should know that ijma is something which is carried out when the solution of a problem is not there in Quran as well as in Hadith. So Islam says that the unanimity, the unity of all the scholars of Islam of the same era are unified on one decision when the Prophet ﷺ has passed away. So, Ijma is the third source of Islamic law after Quran and Sunnah, and it's an essential part of Islamic jurisprudence as it marks the extension of guidance contained in the primary sources. As I've told you earlier, Ijma is only practiced when the solution of a problem is not present in Quran and Hadith. So it promotes unity and fraternity in the Muslim community as referred to in Quran. Quran says, and consult them in affairs of moments. It's an ayat of Surah Al-Imran. And Quran also says, as I've told you in earlier videos when we were talking about use of Quran in legal thinking, use of Hadith in legal thinking. So this is very commonly used reference. It can also be used for the ijma as well. So it says, obey Allah, obey the messenger and those charged with authority. So based on this instruction prescribed by the Quran, the Prophet used to consult his companions as well. When Medina was under attack by the Quraysh, so the Prophet held regular meetings with his companions. As you can see, I've given examples in the Battle of Badr, in the Battle of Uhud, and in the Battle of Trench. Let's move on further. It says that discussion of ijma can be traced from the time of rightly guided caliph. So it was the practice of Abu Bakr that he would ask his jurists to come upon a decision whenever he would not find the solution of that issue in the Quran or in the Hadith. Hadith is also supporting the use of ijma. It says, my community will never agree upon an error. So you can see that how the references have been mentioned to support the use of ijma in Islamic legal thinking. Okay? Now, coming to the types of ijma, but even before it, practice of Abu Bakr be same thing, and in the same way it was the practice of Hazrat Umar as well. Once it's a little event. Once he addressed a letter to Qazi Shuraya, और उस लेटर में he told him that pronounce the judgments according to what had been agreed upon by the people in case he failed to discover a ruling in the Quran and Sunnah. So he asked the Qazi to come up with the decision of the problem shared, but if he fails to do so, then he is directed to consult his companions based on the rulings of Quran and Hadith. Okay. Moving on to the types of ijma, there are three basic types highlighted: कि ijma of the companions of the Prophet, ijma of the jurists, and ijma of the general body of the Muslims. Now, ijma of the companions is universally accepted. उसको challenge नहीं कर सकते हैं किसी सूरत. But regarding the last two types, according to Imam Abu Hanifa, ijma of one age can be modified by ijma of the same or subsequent age, since the incidents that occur in day-to-day life are innumerable. and need to be addressed in the light of the Quran and Sunnah or through the consensus of opinion of the learned scholars of Islamic jurisprudence. So you can see that Imam Abu Hanifa is of the view कि जो companions का ijma है that cannot be challenged at all. However, the ijma which is taken by the other jurists or the general body of the Muslims, so that can be challenged, that can be changed because the problems of the Muslim Ummah are changing on daily basis. Let's discuss few of the examples of ijma that took place in the caliphates of Abu Bakr, Usman and Umar Razillahu Ta'ala anhu, as well as we will see some current day examples that can be applied for ijma and which will also be fulfilling the part B questions of your script. Okay, so let's move on to examples of ijma. First of all, selection of Abu Bakr Razillahu Ta'ala anhu. After the demise of the Prophet, the selection of the leader of Muslims came a big challenge for the Muslim community, and eventually Abu Bakr was elected as the caliph by ijma of the companions. Okay? So you will give this as an example of ijma of the selection of Abu Bakr. Then moving on to the compilation of Quran. So during the life of the Holy Prophet, Quran was not compiled in a book form. In an era of Abu Bakr Caliphate, when a number of companions who had memorized the Quran were martyred in the battle of Garden of Death. So the Quran was compiled into a book form on the suggestion of Hazrat Umar and by the ijma of the companions. I've written here Usman's caliphate as well. So Quran also got compiled again because the people in different areas of Arabian Peninsula were reciting Quran in various dialects. So he recompiled the Quran keeping in view the Qurayshi dialect. So he is also known as Jami al-Quran. Then moving on to Azan for Friday prayers. It also took place in the time of Usman. During the time of the Holy Prophet, only one azan was called for Friday prayers. But later on, as Medina expanded during the Caliphate of Usman, it was difficult for the people to hear the azan and arrive for the congregational prayers on time. So after the ijma of the companions, it was decided that on Friday, there should be another call for prayer so that the people can become alert that prayers are going to take place very soon. Moving on to next, Taraweeh prayers. In the time of the Holy Prophet, regular Taraweeh prayers were not offered, but during Umar's caliphate, he observed in the mosque of the Holy Prophet that Taraweeh was prayed in small scattered groups, or sometimes the people would pray individually. So, to unite all the Muslims behind one reciter and revive the Sunnah in an organized way, he gathered them behind Ubay bin Ka'b as the Imam. So Taraweeh prayers became compulsory during the Caliphate of Hazrat Umar. Moving on to Hijri calendar. Once the governor of Basra, Musa Shari, he wrote to the Umar Razillahu Ta'ala anhu that Amirul Mu'mineen, we receive your instructions from every now and then, but as the letters are undated and sometimes the content of the letter differ, so it becomes very difficult to ascertain as to which instructions are to be followed first. So basically the crux of this message was कि जो मूसा अल-अशारी थे उनको एक डाउट था, वो उमर रज़ियल्लाहु ताला अन्हो को कंफर्म कराना चाहते थे कि sometimes we receive your orders, so they say something else, and sometimes we receive your order that asks us to carry out the order. So we are unclear because it's undated. तो इस पे क्या करना चाहिए? Because we are nowhere when we receive such kind of an order. So in the meantime, Umar received from Yemen a draft for some money which was incashable in Shaban. Umar also thought that the practice of merely mentioning the month in such cases was defective. So, as one could not be sure whether the month referred to was the current year or the following one, so hence he convened an assembly. After discussion, the general opinion was that the Muslims should have a calendar of their own. So in this way, all the companions, they gathered and they formed the Hijri calendar starting from the first year when the Prophet migrated to Medina. Okay?